Hi, this is Irish Eyes True Crime. Hi everyone, welcome back to Irish Eyes True Crime. Today I will be covering the second day of the inquest with the general practitioner, what happened on the 10th of January, and speaking about the family and the friends. Now, I was always going to find this part hard because my relationship is good, my marriage is good, and I was wondering, would I be tainted in looking at Nicola's partner because of my relationship being good? But it's not a bragging thing. It's just the fact that, like, people deserve good partners, and people deserve to see what stands out and what to look for in a good partner, and things that they shouldn't put up with or things like that. So, but I'm going to cover it anyway and see what I think throughout it. Now, I'm going to try be as honest as I can be, and point out things that stand out to me and don't seem normal or seem a bit strange. Now, I'm in no way saying that anybody in this video has done anything wrong, but I will point out when things don't seem quite right. Now, in order to stop us talking about the case or talking about Nicola's partner, we were told that the girls have to grow up and see what people have said about their daddy. But it was their daddy that had pointed to all Nicola's vulnerabilities being part of what happened to her. It wasn't other people. It was Nicola's partner that pointed to all of this stuff. And that's what the girls will have to grow up to see, is that the family and the partner had pointed in the direction that Nicola had caused this herself, or her vulnerabilities had caused this. Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been horrible things said online, because there has been. But some of the stuff that I had seen was even about people that had said, oh, Nicola was a drunk and stuff like that. Like, that was horrible. And she wasn't even here to defend herself. And she didn't even have her family to defend that part. So I'm going to read the statements from day 2 of the inquest first, from the family and the doctors and that, and then I'll get into the video. So Nicola's GP, Dr. Gray, says Nicola presented with low mood and anxiety in December 2018. She was prescribed citalopram, an antidepressant, the inquest is told, and was given propranolol in February of the following year. As a beta blocker, it is designed to change the way your body responds to some nerve impulses. A beta blocker can be used to treat physical symptoms of anxiety. Although propranolol can cause low blood pressure and potential fainting episodes, the inquest was told that Nikki's blood pressure was regularly checked and was always normal. She didn't report any side effects either, the coroner is told. In July 2021, Nicola had started to complain about hot flushes. Tests were carried out and it confirmed Miss Bulley was postmenopausal. Within a month of starting on HRT, in October 2021, hormone replacement therapy, Nikki went back to the GP and said she was experiencing headaches, which are a known side effect, the coroner is told. The dose and medication was tweaked and the headaches resolved. In January 2022, the inquest is told, Nikki presented with fatigue and said she felt more anxious. She said she had started a new job and was finding it particularly stressful. The GP ordered some blood tests, which were all normal. Dr. Gray said there was no mention in Nicola's records that started back in 2012 of Nikki reporting any suicidal feelings or self-harm. On January 11th, 2023, Nikki went to the walk-in centre at Fleetwood and said she had fallen and banged her head the previous night and was feeling drowsy and had been sick, the inquest is told. She was sent to A&E at Blackpool Victoria Infirmary, where a head CT scan found no internal injury. Teresa Lewis-Levy, mental health clinician, who was involved with the home treatment team and a Synergy vehicle, which is the mental health emergency response vehicle, is the next witness. She says that on January the 10th, 2023, just 2 weeks before she went missing, Nikki's sister, Louise Cunningham, had called the mental health team and asked for some assistance with her sister, and that the family was concerned about her increased alcohol use, and Nikki had not wanted to engage with her children and said she didn't want to be here. The team arrived at Nikki's home at 7:30 p.m. Nikki's partner Paul and her sister Louise were there, the coroner is told, together with police and a paramedic. According to Miss Levy, Nicola was appropriately dressed and appeared to be intoxicated. Nicola told her she had lost weight as a result of her increased alcohol use. When asked if Nicola appeared depressed, Miss Levy said no, not that I could ascertain at the time. Miss Levy said that although Nicola was intoxicated, she wasn't slurring her words, but she was repetitive in saying she wasn't sure how this happened, but wasn't able to quantify that with an explanation. The conversation between Nicola and Miss Levy was quite brief, and then Nikki said she was tired and wanted to go to bed. Nicola was advised to go and see the GP the following day, but she said she couldn't as she was sorting her mortgage out. However, when Miss Levy spoke to her partner Paul, he said there wasn't an issue with the mortgage, and it wasn't something that was being done the following day. Louise Cunningham, Nikki's sister, is the next witness. She is asked about what type of person Nikki was. She begins by saying Nikki was my big sister, before breaking down in tears. Louise says Nikki was very much a planner and describes her as just amazing. She said every Christmas Mum and Dad would buy her a Springer Spaniel calendar, and every January Nikki would transfer everything onto the new one with a colour-coded system. Before having the girls, she was a mortgage advisor. After the kids, she resat her exams and she was just getting back into a routine of work again, and she was absolutely brilliant. Nikki had a special bond with Willow, her dog, her sister says. Louise says he was like her third child. She would always find time in her day to take Willow for a walk. Nikki did have a blip over the Christmas period with her HRT. However, come January, she had started to get back to her normal self. She was back on the HRT and back to work and back to normal Nikki. Her drinking did increase. Louise says Nikki has never ever confided in me about any suicidal thoughts or anything like that at all. The coroner, Dr. James Adley, asks if this was something she had thought about, taking her own life. Would she just leave the dog in the field and go? Louise replies, absolutely not. There is no way Nikki would leave Willow unattended. Referring to January the 10th, when the ambulance was called, Louise says, "It was a bit of a wake-up call for her, I think. She was fuming with me for calling the ambulance. She thought I had overreacted, and maybe I did, but she is my sister and I was concerned. She started to get back to normal after that." Louise says she last saw Nikki on Friday, January the 13th, 2023, having stayed with her sister for a few days after the incident on January the 10th. The inquest is told that Nikki and Louise had childhood nicknames for each other. Nikki was Clacker and Louise was Tosh. On the morning of Nikki's disappearance, the inquest is told that Louise texted her sister on WhatsApp, as they had been talking about booking a spa day. Louise booked the spa day that morning and then sent off a text to her at 8:52 a.m. with the words "Tosher." Louise says tearfully, "Literally, I was saying it was booked," but she never picked up the message. The inquest is told the sisters were due to go to Ruby Hall for a spa day on March the 18th, using a voucher Nikki's daughters had bought her for Mother's Day in 2022. Sophie Cartwright, KC, representing the family, asks, "Would it be fair to say you were incredibly close sisters?" Louise replies, "Yes." The barrister continued, "Not just incredibly close, but you come from a very loving family. You were brought up down south, but Mum and Dad moved north to be near the girls. We talked about hobbies, but is it fair to say Nikki's hobby was family?" Louise responded, "Yes." Louise went on to explain she is wearing Nicola's dress today in the inquest. Their parents had given it to Nicola for Christmas, but she didn't like it, so she gave it to Louise. Louise was asked if she spoke about menopausal symptoms with Nikki. Louise said she discussed having some symptoms with the HRT. It was back in the summer of 2022. She was having headaches. She couldn't get the balance exactly right. She mentioned having struggled sleeping. She was taking lavender spray, herbal tea, anything that would relax her before bed. Louise went on to say that Nikki worked with Love Homes in Garstang, an estate agent. And the day before Nicola disappeared, Louise said she had a really successful work meeting and she was excited about her career. She worked for herself as a mortgage advisor, but had built up relationships with various companies such as Love Homes, Concept Living, a new build construction company, and Exclusively Mortgages. Nicola's partner, Paul Ansell, is next to give evidence. He is asked by the coroner, "You were Nikki's partner," and he replies, "I am." After the mental health blip, he says she was back to her usual self and everything was on the up. Paul said that Nicola had been looking forward to the future before her disappearance. She was getting back into her work. She was excited. It was going really well. She had worked so hard. She was happy about earning her own money and getting that independence again. The night before she went missing, he says she was full of beans. Paul said he worked from home for a US company and had been working until 1 a.m. the night before Nicola disappeared. The coroner asks about the morning she went missing. The coroner asks, "It was just a normal morning?" And Paul replies, "Yes." She would always do 2 loops of that field before heading back to the bench and picking the car up from the school. Paul is asked why Willow's harness was off. He said, "We would always take the harness off before going through the gate. Because she's a springer, she's very erratic and into the bushes, so anything that is on her that could get caught, we used to take it off." He's then asked by the coroner why the harness was in the grass and the phone on the bench. Paul replies, When she got back to the bench, she is still listening to a conference call. She must have put the phone on the bench and then gone to put the harness back on Willow. At 10:30 a.m, roughly an hour after Nikki is believed to have entered the water, Paul sent Nikki a text message saying, "Have you got lost?" The inquest is told. At 10:50 a.m, the children's school called him to say her phone and Willow had been found. The coroner also references Ring doorbell footage, which shows Mr. Ansell leaving the house at around this time. Sophie Cartwright KC asks Paul to explain more about the successful meeting Nikki had with Love Homes in Garstown the day before she went missing. Paul replies, "She had agreed to be their sole mortgage advisor, the inquest hears. She came home in amazing spirits," says Paul. Paul reveals Nikki had a meeting planned at 11 a.m. the morning she disappeared. She then had quite a lot of paperwork to get ready for another meeting that afternoon. She would always come home from her morning walk at 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m, he says, adding, "When it got to 10:30 a.m, I started to feel a bit concerned." The inquest is told on Saturday, January the 28th, Nikki was due to take her daughter to a gymnastics competition. She had a full day of practice that day, and that's why Nikki had arranged a play date for her other daughter, who also had her first street dancing lesson that morning. He describes Nikki as an incredible mum and an amazing mum. Reading from Paul's statement to the coroner, the family barrister says, "Your daughters and her daughters were her absolute world. She adored nothing more than a walk with Willow in the countryside or a family walk in the hills, followed by a nice meal out." Paul said there would be no reason why Nikki would put the harness down on the ground. He said the phone would have been on the bench because Nikki would have put it down in order to put the harness back on Willow. Paul said that at the time Nikki disappeared, she had stopped drinking and was back taking her HRT medication. He says in his statement, "She was grateful for every day. She was an amazing mum and partner, and this gave her huge security. She focused on the important things and did the right thing by everyone. She was well respected by all those who knew her. Everybody loved her." He said Nikki was a quiet person who enjoyed the simple side of life. She was a very private person and kept herself to herself. Paul said Nikki had always been a planner, with the kitchen calendar constantly updated with all the family's upcoming activities, while he brought spontaneous nature to the relationship. Asked if she ever had expressed suicidal thoughts, Paul said she had made a couple of throwaway comments in the run-up to her disappearance, but nothing that gave me concern. Nicola's parents, Ernest and Dot, are next to speak. They are sat side by side next to Louise, Nicola's sister. Mrs. Bulley cries as she recalls the last time she saw her daughter, the night before she went missing. Mr. and Mrs. Bulley had been watching the girls at Nicola's home while she was in a Zoom meeting. She said, "Before we went home, we went to the front door and gave them all a kiss and a cuddle." Mr. Bulley added, "We gave her a hug, as we always do with our children and with our grandchildren." Mr. Bulley describes giving Nikki a kiss and a hug as he starts to cry. Mrs. Bulley adds, "For the last time." Mr. Bulley said, as a little girl, Nikki was always dancing around in her tutu, and as a teenager, she wasn't any trouble.
He has to take several pauses as he speaks to compose himself, and adds, "She put so much into passing those exams. It wasn't easy bringing up a family and looking to combine the two together, but we knew that she could do it." The family barrister, Sophie Cartwright KC, is now making submissions to the coroner regarding possible conclusions available to him. Coroners are encouraged, where possible, to use what is known as short-form conclusions, such as accident, misadventure, suicide, drug-related death. The barrister said it was the family's belief that the phone evidence, post-mortem, expert evidence and eyewitness accounts all pointed to Nicola's death being an accident. She said, "What occurred on the riverbank at probably sometime shortly after 9:18 a.m. was a tragic accident for Nikki. It is clear from the evidence that at 9:18, Nikki increased the volume on the Zoom call, and it appears that what happened after that must somehow be linked to the location of the dog harness found on the steep part of the slope. There has been much rumour, suspicion and speculation. The family are of the view that has been allayed by the evidence. The family are comforted by the evidence that Nikki's death would have been very soon after she entered the water." The barrister urged the coroner to find, at approximately 9:30 a.m, Nicola Bulley, on the balance of probabilities, died in the river due to an accidental death. So there you have the statements from day 2 of the inquest. I won't be covering Dr. Adley today. I'll probably do that on a separate video, or maybe with the police video. Now, I didn't get to say anything about any of those interviews or anything like that in the run-up to the inquest, as I was trying to cover videos from the start. So the inquest came upon me, so I didn't even get to talk about any of that stuff. So I'm going to be starting back from the beginning, from the 10th of January, and work my way upwards. So it won't be just the inquest, it'd be stuff happening in between as well on the lead up to the inquest. But it will be all related to the doctors, the friends and the family, and anything that stands out as odd. And also talk about why other people might find things odd. So what stands out to me before the 10th of January is when the GP had said that Nicola had suffered with anxiety and the perimenopause. Most of her stresses was about work. Now, whether that was about finding work or money troubles or stresses about people that she was working with, we don't actually know. But we do know the stresses that Nicola had was mainly about work. But we also know that Nicola was with that GP since 2012, and not once did she ever seem like she was suicidal. So it makes you wonder why that kind of idea was put out there after Nicola's disappearance. Nicola's family had put it out there that Nicola had issues with alcohol at times, on different occasions. By looking at it, it wasn't all the time that she had these alcohol issues, as there was different time periods. So she wasn't drinking all the time. Now, they said about Christmas, like some people do drink a bit extra at Christmas time. But Nicola's family said that she had continued to drink and was kind of getting worse at the drinking. Now, people can drink for many reasons. It could be because of stress, or trying to block out stuff that has happened, or in a cry out for help. Now, when the mental health emergency response vehicle came out on the 10th of January, contacted by Louise, Nicola's sister, Louise told Miss Levy that
Nicola gave the impression that she didn't want to be here and that the family were concerned about her increased alcohol use and that she didn't want to be around the children. Now, first of all, if you were in a mess like that, if you were drinking, or if you thought there was something wrong with you, would you want your children to see that? So obviously, Nicola felt like she didn't want her children to see that. Like, that explains why she didn't want to be around her children. I expect she wanted to protect them and she didn't want them to see the state that she was in. And then the fact that they said Nicola didn't want to be there. That doesn't automatically mean that she wanted to end her life. It could be that she didn't want to be there in the house at that time. She didn't want to be at home. Something was going on in Nicola's life for all this to have happened. And she obviously needed somebody to talk to. Now, when Nicola spoke to Miss Levy said that she appeared intoxicated, but she wasn't slurring her words. And Nicola wasn't sure how it happened, and she couldn't quantify it with an explanation. So how do we know it was from alcohol, or if Nicola's drink had been spiked, or if she had been drugged? Like, the family should question that. Like, was Nicola out drinking with someone that day after work or at a meeting or anything like that? Could it have been possible that Nicola's drink was spiked? Like, as Nicola said, she didn't know how this happened. Like, she was observant enough to know that there was something wrong with her, and she didn't want her children to see that. And also, Miss Levy said she didn't appear depressed. So Nicola said she was tired and wanted to go to bed. And Miss Levy advised Nicola to go and see the GP the following day. But Nicola said she couldn't, as she was sorting her mortgage out. Now, the advice doesn't specify whether this is in relation to the head injury or whether it was because of her increased alcohol usage. Or the fact that Louise thought Nicola needed mental health care. I don't see it here that Miss Levy knew about the head injury, whether it happened before she got there or after she got there. Now, the only thing I saw on it was a friend had posted that it supposedly happened when Willow had come in from outside wet and the floor was slippery and Nicola slipped on the floor and banged her head. Now, I don't know if that information came from Louise, Paul or Nicola to that friend. And it may be the truth of what happened. But there's also a possibility, as we know, people that are in violent relationships with partners, and not only just that, with friends or, somebody that could be controlling them, they hide these facts and tell different stories of how it happened. I'm not saying that happened in this case. I'm just saying that's something that people should look out for, and they shouldn't hide those things. They should tell people. You don't need to put up with stuff like that. Now, when Miss Levy spoke to her partner, Paul, he said there wasn't an issue with the mortgage and it wasn't something that was being done the following day. Now, I wonder why Paul felt a need to point out that his partner, Nicola, was lying here. And was it an actual lie? Or did he know for a fact that what was going on in Nicola's head and what she had prepared for the next day? As the next day would have been a Wednesday, a work day. So obviously Nicola would have plans made for work. So did he know all about her schedule and everything that she was thinking about? Or if she had made a decision later on that she was going to sort something out like that the next day? But I'm sure if she had wrote in a diary or wrote on her calendar
about what was going to happen on that Wednesday. And if they were kept, the family could check back on that to see if someone was actually lying here, and or to see if there was a motive to paint someone as a liar. And let's face it, Nicola was honest with Miss Levy when she said that she had lost weight because she had been drinking too much. And Louise had said on the 10th of January that the family was concerned about her increased alcohol use, but also worried that she had said she didn't want to be here and didn't want to be around the children. Yet Louise said at the inquest that Nicola had never, ever expressed any suicidal thoughts to her. When Paul, Nicola's partner, was asked had she any suicidal thoughts, he said that leading up to her disappearance, she had made a few runaway comments. Yet he said it didn't give him any concern. So why mention it when asked about suicidal thoughts that she did make runaway comments? And is this the feeling just from Paul, or is it from Nicola's family as well? Louise said that Nicola was fuming with her for calling the ambulance. And I'm sure she was fuming with her partner Paul as well, because both of them were involved in it. And Louise said it was a bit of a wake-up call for Nicola. I'd say Nicola's trust in both of them was lost that night. And whatever was going on with her, she felt like she couldn't tell them because she couldn't trust them. When Louise left the house on Friday the 13th, she never seen Nicola again. As 2 weeks later, on Friday morning, the 27th of January, Nicola disappeared. So the day after the 10th of January incident, on the 11th of January, Nicola went to the local clinic and was further sent on for a CT scan. She said she fell and hit her head, and she was complaining of feeling sick and dizzy. Now, the CT came back as normal, but I don't know whether they'd done any bloods on her to see did it show up any alcohol or any drugs in her system. It didn't mention that in the inquest. But after everything that happened on the 10th of January and her attending the clinic and going for a CT scan on the next day, on the Wednesday, 2 weeks later she disappears and then is found dead 3 weeks later. Like, that is of concern. Plus that mental health call out, that service, is a relatively new service. How did they know to contact that service? Had they previously contacted that service? Now moving on to the day before Nicola disappeared. Both Ernest and Dot and Louise and Paul all said that Nicola was in great form. Paul said that Nicola had agreed to be the sole mortgage advisor for Love Homes in Garstang. She had a meeting in Garstang that evening. Now, if you haven't seen my video on Love Homes in Garstang, check back and give it a watch. It's called Nicola Bulley, Do We Really Know Who Is Around Us? I wonder, is there a link to Nicola's disappearance with her accepting that full job, or had any links in any of the workplaces that she had been working with coming up to her disappearance, have any links to it? Could there be somebody that's possibly jealous of Nicola accepting that job and know that that was coming up? Or could one of the jobs that she was linked with have any underhanded work that Nicola wanted to get away from? As we know now that through her GP that she was stressed about her work. But we also know that from other people, having looked it up, that Nicola was named on a couple of the businesses that Paul had started up. But no matter what, anyway, the feeling the family had the night before Nicola disappeared is that she was in better form. Moving on now to the 27th of January, the day Nicola disappeared. Louise, Nicola's sister, had sent her 2 messages that morning while she was on her walk. The first message was about the spa day. Nicola didn't reply to that message, but she did go on to message someone else after that, but didn't reply to Louise. Now, I found that a bit strange. The second message was regarding a dress that Nicola had been given by her parents at Christmas. Louise said that Nicola didn't like the dress, so she gave it to Louise. The message read, "The difference of £22 I will cover for the dress Mum got you at Christmas that you didn't keep and I had." I felt it odd that Louise thought she had to pay Nicola money for this dress. And the fact that she sent this after Nicola didn't reply to the first message. And it had been about 2 weeks since Louise had seen Nicola. So that means it was before that she would have got the dress off Nicola. Or at least sometime after Christmas. Why bring up money so long afterwards? Anyway, Nicola didn't reply to the second message either, but that's around the time that she disappeared. Paul said that Nicola had a meeting at 11 o'clock and also had one for the afternoon that she had to get paperwork ready for. That explains why he was starting to get concerned or panicky when come 10:30 she wasn't back, knowing that she'd have that meeting shortly. Now I'm sure police and the family looked at her diaries to check that out anyway. Well, you'd expect so. But what makes it strange for me is if you look back on the timeline, the works team call that Nicola was on didn't end till 10:32. And Paul had said that this is a routine that she normally did, was with their works teams calling. So why would he be expecting her home at that time, saying that she had a meeting at 11, when he already knew the meeting would be going on till around 10:30? So if she was leaving the field around 10:30, she's still home in plenty of time for the meeting at 11 o'clock. So why would he be concerned about 10:15? Knowing that her works team's call will go on till about 10:30. Which also proves that Nicola wouldn't have been putting on Willow's harness, as Paul says, at the gate until she's ready to leave. And that would have been around 10:30 that she would have been ready to leave. Now, she could have finished up early and probably does finish up early, and that's what Paul is talking about. But it does seem strange that she was only going to be on the meeting a very short time when the meeting went on for an hour and a half. I'm also wondering why he didn't question the police when he found out that the police had lied about the team's call, as they were saying all along that the team's call ended at 9:30. And even at the inquest, it was like they were trying to hide this fact because none of the news ran with it, because it wasn't actually mentioned in the inquest. It's only in the paperwork of the inquest that was handed out to the people attending. And obviously the coroner didn't notice it either. So at 10:40 a.m, Paul tries to call Nicola 6 times and her phone doesn't answer. So then he sends her a message, "Have you got lost?" Now that seems a strange message to send to your partner, when before that at 10:15 you were getting concerned and panicky. I expect a message of "Are you okay?" would be more appropriate, but that's just my opinion. Anne-Marie Fletcher contacted the school at 10:50 a.m. At 10:54 a.m., the school contacted Paul to let him know about Willow being found and the harness and the phone. Then at 10:57 a.m., Paul contacts Anne-Marie Fletcher. And while talking to Anne-Marie on this phone call lasting 3 minutes and 10 seconds, he tells Anne-Marie that Nicola was struggling. Now, why would he tell Anne-Marie that on the phone when Nicola was in good form and good spirits? Did something happen from the previous evening when she was in good spirits to when she had disappeared to make Paul think that she was struggling? It seems very strange. And contacting Anne-Marie before the police. At 11 a.m, Paul contacts the police by dialing 999. He spends about 9 minutes or so on the phone with them, and he arrives at the bench at 11:10 a.m. He said he had a quick look around, collected Willow and the phone, and made his way back to the house to meet the police at the house at 11:25. So from the very first phone call the police had with Paul, from whatever he said on that phone call, they classed Nicola as a high-risk, vulnerable person. Yet they didn't go straight to the river. And Paul didn't stay there at the river, trying to find Nicola and tell them to meet him there. Now, I find that odd because if my husband was missing like that beside a river, I'd have to be dragged away from there. I wouldn't leave. And my husband said to me that that's exactly what he would do as well. He'd have to be dragged away from there. Like, he could have got family members to meet the police. He could have got family members to mind the children. And he didn't go back down to the river after the police had called out to the house. So the next day was Saturday, the 28th of January. And Paul went back down to the river, down to the fields where Nicola was last seen, and brought Willow with him. He said Willow didn't react any different when they went through the gate. She just was excited about going for a walk. But a male friend of Paul's, who went with him on the Saturday with Willow, told Grizzly True Crime that Willow did actually react, but it was over at the Rowan Water area. Now, I don't know why he left that out of the interview and then got a friend to tell a YouTuber about it. Also, Paul's male friend told Grizzly True Crime that on the Saturday morning, Nicola's family got there around 8 o'clock to the riverside, and police didn't turn up till 10:30 that morning. So at this stage, they're starting to point out things the police were doing that they didn't like, and making sure the public knew about it. But we know that fire and rescue was in the river that previous night, the night of Nicola's disappearance, out with torches in the river, working away trying to find her. Now, moving on to Sunday, January the 29th. A friend tells the Mirror that local residents met at the village hall alongside Paul at around 10:30 a.m. to organise their own search. Paul is understood to have searched a different abandoned property in between the village hall and Ivy Dean Alpaca site prior to the meeting. This is the laneway in between those two places that takes you down to the abandoned building that Paul would have searched on his own. There's a sign there that says public footpath. This is the site where the abandoned property would have been on. There's these ponds at the end of the road that you'd go down. Now, why would Paul go down there to look for Nicola? Why would he even think that Nicola would abandon her dog, her children and him and be down there somewhere? And why did he want to rule out that area so nobody else would go down there to search for her? There's a big silver barn down there, and there's a big yard with metalwork and machinery down there. And if you go into the right hand side of that barn, you can drive directly down to that pond. Is it a case that Nicola takes walks down there and that's why he thought to look down there? But that doesn't explain the fact that she would leave Willow way across by the river and her phone and all that and go down that area. So this is really strange to me. Now for the rest of the video, I want to notice any pattern throughout the whole thing. We know now that between Penny and Ron, somebody had messed with the scene and had put the harness on the bench. And neither of them said they'd done that. And if a lot of us people, which there's so many of us, has a gut feeling that Nicola was abducted and something happened to her that day, what if the plan the abductors had was to make it look like an accident, but something went wrong and they had to go back and move that harness? Would there be evidence on Nicola's body to prove that if they had found her body earlier, that it wasn't an accident and they needed to hold on to her for longer so as the police wouldn't be able to find that evidence? So moving on, we know Paul was pointing in the direction that Nicola's disappearance was something to do with her vulnerabilities. So over the next few days, over 100 people continued to search for Nicola. On the 1st of February, Berkshire Live put out a news article. A friend was spoken to at the village hall where they were meeting up for the searches. The person spoke about the leaflets they were handing out. They said you can pick one of them up. They've got a QR code so you can log in and log out. The only condition to any of that is you must be in a pair. The friend who had walked the route with Nicola before said, I know that river well. I walked it many times. I know where I can stand and where I can't stand. And she knew the same. They also said, at the end of the day, all we want is her home with her girls. If she could be at home with the girls, she would be at home with the girls. 100%, no doubt about it. Now here you have the first friend speaking out and going against the police theory that Nicola had an accident by the river. But not only that, she's pointing out that Nicola would have never left her children. So that's different than Paul's idea that her vulnerabilities had something to do with her disappearance. Also on the 1st of February, Nicola's parents spoke to the Mirror online. Speaking to the Mirror, as the operation to find Nicola enters a 6th day, Nicola's parents, Ernest 73 and Dot 72, vowed we will never stop looking for her. They said the disappearance of the 45-year-old mum from Inskip, Lancashire, was totally out of character. Ernest saying she had no health problems and was in good spirits enjoying her job. Recalling their last conversation, he said her mind was great. We picked the children up on the Thursday before she went missing, as we do every Thursday. We took them home. Nicola had a meeting with her boss in Garstan, and she said, "Can you stay a bit later because I have an important client coming in on Zoom?" We said no problem and stayed. She had done her work and she was very upbeat about getting her mortgage sorted. I said we better go now, and Nicola came to the front door and I gave her a kiss and told her I loved her. And that was the last conversation I had with her. Ernest said there was no sign of her slip or falling in, so our thought was, has somebody got her? I asked the sergeant from Fleetwood a few days ago if there is any chance of her being taken, and she said, I don't think that's the case. I said, how can you know that? It's such an isolated area. The only way that has happened is if it was someone who knew her. While Nicola's family live in hope of her turning up, Ernest confessed their worst fears. We just dread to think we will never see her again. If the worst came to the worst and she was never found, how will we deal with that for the rest of our lives? But Ernest vowed we will never stop looking. The couple, who are joint owners of a freight transport company, have split their time between caring for their grandchildren, Nicola's 2 young daughters, and looking for their own daughter. For Mum Dot, the nights are the hardest. She said, our worst time is when it gets dark. We find it really hard to think about, wondering is she okay and where is she? But the police tell us 24 hours a day they are on it and still working. You wake in the night and you can't get back off to sleep. On Monday, Nicola's long-term partner Paul Ansell, 44, described the situation as perpetual hell. But on that same day, Grandad Ernest described his heartbreak at hearing the girls sobbing their hearts out when they were told Mummy is lost. He added, we don't know how long we can keep going before they realise they think Mummy is coming home soon. But if this keeps going on and on, I don't know where we are going to go or what to say to them. All members of the family had been involved in the search for Nicola in some way, particularly her younger sister Louise. Louise, who has been out every day according to her parents. The sisters had been excitedly planning a spa break the night before Nicola vanished. Dot said Louise had just booked Ruby Hall because they both had spa vouchers. She had just sent Nicola the night before the treatments. Louise booked it on Friday morning and sent it to Nicola, but she never got back to her. They are very close. Nicola, who lived for her children, had also bought tickets to watch them perform at choir and gymnastic shows in the recent weeks. The family applauded the efforts of Lancashire police as marvellous, but are just desperate for clues to beloved Nicky's whereabouts. Lancashire police are keeping an open mind, but said they do not believe Nicola has been attacked. Ernest said, I think the police thought initially that when they saw the phone on the bench and the dog wasn't tethered, that she may have gone into the river, and that was their main line of search. It was the lack of any evidence of Nicola having suffered a slip or fallen into the river that led the parents to consider someone else may have brought harm to their daughter. Either way, their hope is that with all of the media surrounding Nicola's case, someone will spot her and report a sighting. Ernest said, there's so much coverage, it's like a manhunt, and at this moment in time, we're still no further down the line. There's still no clues. If we found a part of clothing, a scarf, anything that was found somewhere, then there would be a different line of inquiry, but there isn't. We have found nothing. Louise asked the police the other day, when do you stop looking? And he said we don't. We keep going until we find somebody. Also on the 1st of February, you have Emma White and Heather Gibbons speaking to 5 News.
We've got a mummy missing and 2 little girls asking where their mummy is. And then we've got Paul being so strong for his little girls. But imagine the roller coaster he's going on. It's just heartbreaking. Every type of emotion we can imagine. She's so well loved. She's just kind, beautiful inside and out. She'd do anything for anybody.
What we're holding on to is no news is good news, and we have to hold on to hope because that's what's pushing us forward at the moment. And anyone who knows Nick just knows that a family are a world. Our girls are our absolute everything. And if she could be at home with her girls and Paul, we just don't have any doubt that that's where she'd be.
So here you have Heather Gibbons saying she's no doubt that if Nicola could be, she'd be with her family. She wouldn't leave them. So again, going against what Paul thought at first, that the vulnerabilities had something to do with it. Now moving on to the 2nd of February, the day after Nicola's parents gave an interview with the Mirror Online. Both Nicola's parents and sister Louise done an interview with Sky News.
I just can't, if I'm being honest, it feels like I'm just stuck in a nightmare. We're going round and round in circles trying to piece together what could have possibly happened. And we've just got to keep such an open mind with everything because we just have no idea where she is. It's like she's just vanished into thin air. There's no evidence to point us in any direction. Obviously, my hope is that she's still out there. Something's happened and she's, I don't know, needed to take herself off for whatever reason. And we just want her home. We need her home. Her children need her home. It's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Only for you, what's the last week been like as a father?
It's been very difficult. As from last Friday morning to date, it's just been so painful. We're such a close-knit family. We talk to each other, both our children, Louise and Nicola, and the children every day. There's not a day goes by without talking to them. And this has just emptied our lives at the minute. We just feel so empty. We appreciate everything that everyone's doing to find her. The police have been brilliant. The local community has been outstanding. And it's just comforting from that point of view. But at the end of the day, we just want her back.
On that point, the community spirit has been unbelievable in a very small village. How much has that helped you, knowing that people have come from far and wide to help look for your daughter?
Massive. It's been massive. We've really appreciated it, and everyone that's been involved doing the sweep search of the fields, etc. It's just given us hope that someone might find something that could give us that little clue to what might have happened.
We just need something. We're nearly a week on tomorrow, and we're just going around in circles. It's like something's got to have been missed. There's got to be, somebody must know something. Somebody must know. People don't just vanish into thin air. There's got to be somebody that knows something. And all we are asking, no matter how small or big, if there's anything that you can remember that just doesn't seem right, then please reach out to the police. Please just get in touch and get my sister back.
I was going to ask you that, Lou. What is it you want to say to people watching this, wherever they're sat, wherever they're watching from, on their phones, on the tellies? What do you want to say to people in order to help you?
Well, just if anybody knows anything, just let us know. Just, Nikki, if you're bloody out there, just let us know that you're okay. We can sort anything out. We just want you home. We just want you home.
Yeah, my approach to this is that for the public to search their minds or anything that they might have seen, doesn't matter how significant it is. If it's something that they think might not be interesting, it could be, and inform the police that that they've seen something. But the main thing is that we want to find Nicola, get her back home. There's 2 young children there waiting for their mummy to come back, and we feel that we want her back, obviously also. But if Nicola is out there, if she is watching this, then all we'd like to say is just come home, contact the police, contact ourselves, and we just want you back.
One thing on covering this story and speaking to people right at the very heart of it, and everyone harks back to this, is that there are 2 beautiful girls at home, Nikki's kids. How difficult is that, knowing that the daughters are there without a mum?
It's just, obviously their little minds are trying to process. They don't really understand. None of us understand, to be honest. But we've just got to try, and when there's children involved, you have to carry on. You've got to get through every day, and that's all we're trying to do.
But they know mum is missing. But they know that she's going to be coming home. And this is, everyone's looking for her. So it's only a matter of time that they're thinking in their minds that she's going to walk through that door.
What happened on Friday morning started off as what seemed to be Nikki's, daily routine, really, dropping the kids off at school, taking Willow for a walk. It all seemed quite normal. How do you feel about the fact that this has happened and it isn't Nikki, in a way, if you get what I mean? It's not her, it's not normal Nikki.
No.
What's happened? How does that make you feel?
We just haven't got any answers, have
No,
we? We just don't know.
She's done this 1,000 times. Drops the children off from school. Her beloved dog Willow, she loves it to bits, that dog. She'd do anything for the animal. She parks the car in the school car park, walks across past St Michael's Church, through that little lane, up to the open field, and that's where she does it every day in, day out. There may be days where she misses, but if it's not her, it's Paul. And it all revolves around the point that they've dropped the children off at the school. But it's just routine. And, we're just baffled by it. Just baffled.
The police only have said that they're keeping an open mind about what's happened here. Is that easy to do? Is it difficult to keep an open mind? When there's speculation and everything. How tough is that?
Yeah, well, we're trying to be quite honest with you. We're trying not to get too involved in what people are saying, because nobody knows anything, do they? So, and that's what we really want to say today, is don't get blindsided that this has definitely happened, or, we need to keep an open mind. Could be anything, because there's no evidence to point any other way, and get my sister home.
We'll just end on a final note from you all, and how important is it that this message is out there, that people listen, that they give any information that they possibly can to help get your sister, to help get your daughter back home? How crucial is it right now?
Well,
it's the only thing we're holding on to.
we're holding on for this as not our last hope, but this is going to reach out to millions of people. And we're just hoping that from this interview that something may come of it, which will spark a light, and it will lead to us finding our daughter.
How much are you missing her?
Oh, don't. It's hard. It's hard. We're such a close-knit family. We are a close-knit family, I'm sorry. But we're such a close-knit family. We do anything for any one of us, and the children will do the same for us. We're getting on in life. And, the grandchildren and our own children are more important to us as we're getting older. So, yeah, just hope she comes home.
So Louise seems here that she's unconvinced about the police theory that Nicola had went into the river. But she doesn't seem to share her father's thoughts that she might have been abducted. She seems more convinced that Nicola had taken herself off, more in line with what Paul had thought. Now, whether Louise had come to this idea herself or whether she was influenced by what Paul had thought at the start, I don't know. Especially with this comment, Nikki, if you're bloody out there, just let us know. And she had a little bit of humour about it. It sounds to me like she's fairly sure of it. Like, we can sort anything out, we just want you home. So then Ernest makes a plea to Nicola. If she is out there, come home. He still seems unsure about that option as he uses the word if. Asked how do you feel that this isn't Nikki in a way? Like it's not normal Nikki. Ernest goes to speak and says no. Then Louise says, well, we just don't know. We haven't got any answers. She tries to talk over him. But Ernest continues as he wants to answer the question. Ernest points out that she has the same routine every day and loves her dog, pointing to the fact that it is out of character for her. It does look like they have different opinions on what happened to Nicola. Louise then pointing to speculation. She says, nobody has any evidence either way. Keep an open mind and get my sister home. It's like she believes she's out there. Asked how important this message is in the interview. Again, Ernest speaks and Louise speaks over him. Louise says, well, it's the only thing we're holding on to. Ernest says it's not our last hope, but this is going to reach out to millions of people, hoping it will spark a light which will lead us to finding our daughter. You see, he knows how important that interview is. For more people to see it and see that she's missing, and they might remember that they did see something around that time. And Ernest gets upset, stressing that they are such a close family. So he knows that Nicola would never do anything herself. So also on the same day, the 2nd of February, Grizzly True Crime starts covering the case of Nicola. She later said that a family friend sent her the leaflet on Nicola being missing. So moving on to the 3rd of February, Paul Ansell does his first interview.
I don't really have anything to say other than what the family said yesterday. My whole focus is our 2 girls, just staying as strong as I can for them. I'm scared that if I put any focus into anything else, it's going to take my, focus off that. So I've got to be very careful. Just hoping to goodness that anything comes out from the interview yesterday, no matter how tiny. Just say a massive thank you to the community, friends, for everything that they're doing. It's absolutely incredible. I just can't believe that we're a week on, and as yet it seems like we're no further on. It just seems absolutely impossible. Just like a dream. Just cannot get my head around any of it.
I mean, you're left sort of trying to make sense of the census, aren't you? It is just such a mystery.
Yeah, it is. There's just no every single scenario comes to a brick wall, every single one of them, and then all we're doing is sitting there going round and round and round, going through every scenario, and then go back to the first scenario again and do the whole thing again, and it's just all day long. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing.
How are you coping? It must be so difficult. Like you say, your focus is on the girls, and it has to be. But
Yeah.
it must be so difficult.
I don't know how I'm coping. I don't even want to actually think about that. Just focus, just like I say, it's just about the girls, that's it. I'm there for them. I don't want to really elaborate on that. I don't want to take my eye off that.
It must be heartwarming to see the public response. I mean, hundreds of people trying to help.
It's amazing. It is. Right now, it's the only thing that we can take is, that level of support is out of this world. It gives us a great amount of comfort knowing that that's going on. They don't have anything else, do we?
Well, there's hope.
We're never ever going to lose the hope. Of course we're not. But right now, it is as though she has vanished into thin air. Just insane.
So he's stressing that he needs to keep his focus on the girls. He doesn't make a plea for Nicola. He points out that they go over every scenario and then go back to the first scenario again and all over again. That would be him and Nicola's family discussing the scenarios all day long, and that's all they are doing. Bringing them back to his scenario, the first scenario. But he seems to be peed off with having to keep going over it when he has his feelings about it. Or what he wants them to believe had happened. He doesn't know how he's coping. It's just about the girls. I don't really want to elaborate on that. Now, to me, that's just another way of pointing that Nicola had went off herself and he's concentrating on the girls. A tactic used when you want to make sure that you keep custody of your children. Now, it is possible that he really did think that Nicola had run off herself. But it also could be that he wants people to believe that, and it's another dig, just throwing it out there for people to think that Nicola had run off herself. Now, he says lovely things about the support that they're receiving, but still nothing about Nicola, no pleas to her, and about the great amount of comfort knowing that they have support and knowing that that's going on. Then I noticed he says, they don't have anything else, do we? And he'd done this with some humour. Maybe from the fact that he said they instead of we at the start of that sentence. Maybe knowing he made a mistake in saying that, as it sounds like he's talking about Nicola's family and not himself. They don't have anything else, do we? He has to be pointed then to hope. And he quickly pulls himself together and he says, we are never ever going to lose hope, but right now it's like she's vanished into thin air. It's just insane. But to go from hope to saying, but right now it's like she vanished into thin air, that seems a bit strange as well. He could have followed with something nice about Nicola, but he didn't. So on the same day, on the 3rd of February, Emma White done an interview with Sky News. Now, I'm not going to be showing all of Emma's interviews because there's far too many of them. But I just want to show what some of Nicola's friends had to say about it and the help that they had put into searching for Nicola. So I just want to use a few videos to coincide with my video here.
Helped today by members of the public. One of the people helping to organise that, Emma White, a friend of Nicola's. Just tell us a little bit, first of all, this is such a difficult time for all the friends and family. How are you all coping?
Yeah, I think today has been a bit of a pinnacle. As you said, it's 7 days on. So the community come out in force today. We've got banners, placards, Faces of Nikki, who to contact if they see anything. The community once again has come out in force. The community's been doing work all week. We've had organised walks, and people have come out in their drones from all over the county.
I mean, you've had an incredible response, haven't you? You're saying that around 100 people or more today helping out today. There have been all week. This has really, really affected people, hasn't it? People are desperate to know what's happened to them.
Absolutely, and I think you can all relate to the situation. You're either a mother, a daughter, an auntie, a mummy yourself. You might have children. You might have a dog called Willow. You can resonate with the situation. I think that's why it has touched so many people. But yeah, again, it's that mystery of unknown. So like you said, it's feeling eerie now that we're a week on, and then in 15 minutes' time for Nikki to vanish, and we have no further information of where she's gone, what's happened.
I mean, we can see from the numbers of people who are trying to help what Nicola means to people. Just tell us a little bit about her. What's she like?
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes itself. Nikki is just a genuinely lovely person. You'll see the images of her, and that's reflected inside as well. She's not only beautiful on the outside, beautiful on the inside. She's caring. She loves animals. She loves nature. She loves her girls, her dog. Her family is a world. You heard yesterday when you did your interview, Ernie saying he speaks to the girls, his girls, as in Lou and Nikki, every single day or sees them. And then they are, his words, a close-knit family. They really are. And I go back to those two little girls now missing their mummy, and that's why we're here. Just anything we can get, any information we can glean to give them that hope. That's why we're here.
And there is still hope, isn't there?
Yeah, there has to be. I won't lie, it's diminishing. Today's a real... I can't describe the feeling I've got going on here. And as all our other friends and family do, there's the sadness, there's the heartache, there's the worry, there's the what if. But then mix it all up, you've got this hope in there so you don't know whether you're good, bad, ugly, and you have to have that hope. We have to carry that glimmer, that torch, whatever you want to call, of hope. We have no information, and that's why it's so important for you guys to do what you're doing. The police have done tremendous efforts. The community have come together. For all that work, we have to have some reward for it, and I hope today's the day for Paul, for the mum and dad, for the sister, and for those girls.
There were two people who the police specifically wanted to speak to. They have traced those two people. It hasn't moved the investigation on, or so it seems. No. But someone might have that little bit of information, no matter how small, might they, that could help. And
this is why we're out here today in force. You've got a big blowy, wavy man. You've got the banners. You've got pictures of Nikki. Someone might go, oh, yes, cha-ching. And it's just that light bulb moment that anything that you think so small, just come forward and dial 101, or if you see a sighting, 999. We have to. In this day and age, how could someone just disappear? It makes no sense, and that's probably why it's captured the nation.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for talking to us. I know it's such a difficult time for you. I think you're incredibly brave to stand in front of the camera and put that appeal out. So that is the appeal. Anyone who has any information about Nicola's whereabouts, no matter how trivial it might seem, come forward. It could be the key. It could be the secret part of this puzzle that the police are desperately trying to find.
Yeah, really important appeal, Fraser. Thanks very much indeed for that.
Now, I just want to point out here that the amount of work that Nicola's friends put into all the banners and posters and the searching that they did, like outside what the police was doing, and this was all on themselves. It just shows how much love there was for Nicola. And to see them all standing out there beside the road, knowing that they don't believe the police theory that Nicola had fell into the river. They believe that there's something else went on. And you can see it there in this video by the amount of work they put into it. And as I say, standing out at the road to try capture the attention of people passing by to see if they've seen anything. Now, while you're watching any friends' interviews, do you notice any difference in what they say? As some of them say that Nicola would never leave her girls or her partner.
They all say the same, as in she loved her girls and her partner. But I can't find anything in Emma White's videos where she says she'd never leave her partner and children. So moving on now to the 4th of February.
I'm joined by a good friend of Nicola's, Emma White. Good to see you again, Emma. We keep calling her Nicola. You knew her as Nikki, of course.
Yeah.
And your thoughts, I'm interested in your thoughts after that update from police yesterday. When you heard what the police had to say, what went through your mind?
Let's just take you back to yesterday. So yesterday was a 7-day milestone. It was a roller coaster in itself. You wake up, oh, still no news. Okay, we'd already planned the 7 days, a big media publicity. We were out there with the banners. So then to hear just in the afternoon that had driven awareness, influx of calls, that hope was ignited. I couldn't tell you the feeling like something's got to come of all this information. We then get the news bulletin and it comes up with this hypothesis, then that sinking feeling again. And I just wanted to quote, so what we're saying is, what struck a chord, she said the search continues to no avail, and then obviously a hypothesis is unlimited information. And when we're talking about a life, we can't base it on a hypothesis. Surely we need this factual evidence. And like you've just both said, that's what the family and us are all holding on to, that we're actually no further on than sadly last Friday. We still have no evidence. And that's why we're out again in force.
Yeah, I can sense frustration in your voice. Do you feel frustrated?
It's not frustrated, but you don't base life on a hypothesis, do you? You absolutely can have hypotheses, but then you need something to back that hypothesis up to become factual.
Do you think it might almost have been better not to have mentioned that, to have just said we don't have any new information, but we are still appealing for help, we are still appealing for, like they did, dash cam footage and the like, but actually not necessarily saying that is now their theory?
100%, and I think we just said, we talked to the family, they obviously discussed that with the family. We didn't believe it was going to go into a live news bulletin when it is this hypothesis, so yeah. Yeah,
you're great friends with Nikki and Paul. What's Paul saying this morning? Did you have a chance to speak to him after the conference yesterday?
Yeah, as soon as we heard, we said, what's the message? And he was just like, keep going until we find something factual.
And you were here chatting to me yesterday, and you were so buoyed up and so hopeful because the police had more calls, hadn't they? They had more information through. Did you get any sense of what that information might have been?
No, all I know, it was a significant influx in calls that they had to bring another 101 team in to answer the calls. So when you hear that news coming from the police, you think, oh my, there has to be a glimmer there has to be something coming from that today just to give a line of inquiry to go on. So when the news bulletin came, I thought, they might have found something that we don't know. And we thank everybody that did come forward. What I would say is we need to keep it to factual information. Like they could have received 100 calls on, I don't know, that's not relevant to the case.
Yeah, it needs to be a genuine factual information. No, that's a good point. There's been a lot of talk about a tennis ball and that Willow loved chasing a tennis ball, and perhaps the ball rolled down this very steep bank where we're standing, ended up in the water, and Emma understandably tried to retrieve the ball. Simple as that, as you would do on a dog walk. What do you think about that theory?
Willow used to love a tennis ball very much, but it used to disturb the walk, so they haven't had a tennis ball since way into last year. Obviously, a tennis ball, she loved the tennis ball, so she'd always be by you, pestering you for the ball. But it wasn't a nice walk when the dog's pestering, so the ball was definitely no ball.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. As a dog owner, I know how annoying it can be having dogs obsessing over balls. So you don't think there would have been a ball?
No.
Okay. And finally, what is your message today to people watching this who will share your anguish? They'll share the family's anguish and their desperation that perhaps things are narrowing down now in terms of getting Nikki back. What's your message?
Again, yesterday they said they haven't explored all the avenues. We've got footage missing from Garstang Road, which is just outside of the river where you come into the gate for the walk. So we're appealing again for anybody that has the dash cam footage, any information on that. Then when we've explored that avenue, then hopefully the police can piece a bit more of the picture together. I know people will be coming out in the force today. We've had message after message and we thank you. We've got routes set up for people to do today. We've actually overnight I think you've already shared it, we've got this 10-foot illuminated box that actually drove from Blackpool to Preston last night. It's going to be driving around. It's going to be prominently in St Michael's today, just to raise that awareness. And if someone can just shed a little bit of light to give us some evidence, that's all we're asking.
And it's just a simple phone call.
A simple phone call. Yeah. And nothing's too small, but then again, don't clog the lines with trivia.
No. And for you, you're not ruling anything out?
Not ruling anything out, no. And we have to. I've always said, my children, Nicky's children, we've got to carry that hope. But until we find something, we can't go and tell them we have a hypothesis.
It's going to be tough for the little girls this weekend, isn't it?
Very, very much so. And we've all been about the routine. So they're going to the clubs and doing what we normally do on a Saturday and just keeping them occupied.
So here you have Emma White being put forward for an interview the day after police had a conference and gave their main working theory that Nicola had fell into the water accidentally. So now the family are thinking the police are going to put everything into the river. So you have Emma asked about the tennis ball, the main reason why she's here at this interview. And Emma says that Willow used to love the tennis ball. Now, a dog doesn't used to love a tennis ball. If they love a tennis ball, they will always love a tennis ball. So, for a start, we know that's wrong. So then she says that the ball used to disturb the walk. So she didn't have a ball with her since late into last year. Now, everybody knows by looking at Nicola's socials that she always had the ball with her with Willow. But she stopped posting on her socials late into the last year. So Emma and the family know here that nobody can prove that the ball was with them because she hadn't posted in so long. Well, actually, it wasn't even that long because Nicola went missing on the 27th of January in the first month of the new year. But then to actually say that Willow would be by you, pestering you for the ball or pestering you while you're walking, Nicola would have never said something like that as a dog lover. I'm a dog lover, and I know all other dog lovers would never say something like that about their dog. And then to say that it wasn't a nice walk while that was going on. Nicola had done that for years. It's in the photographic evidence. Why just then decide, oh, the dog's pestering me? There's no way that happened. I honestly think this is a lie. Nicola loved her walk with Willow, and she loved being able to play with Willow with the ball. I believe this was to get the police out of the river, away from the river. I believe now in this next video, you'll see that they really want that evidence that Nicola left that area herself. That's why they want the dash cam footage. Both police and Emma want the dash cam footage for two different reasons.
7 days on with people driving past, we got the news at lunchtime that the police 101 had an influx of calls and actually more people had to come in to deal with those calls, so that hope was ignited once again. And then we get the news bulletin and the hypothesis comes out, and the hypothesis based on limited information. And what struck a chord yesterday was the search continues to no avail. We've still got a missing piece of that jigsaw. The police were still asking yesterday, we're on this road here, this is Garstang Road, they're calling for dash cam footage off this road, so there's still an exit unexplored down there that Nicky could perhaps come out. So no line of inquiry has been fully investigated.
Of course, the police are continuing their search. They've got search teams coming down here today, concentrating on the river. While all this is going on, and whatever theories people come up with, the fact is there's still her partner Paul, there's still her little girls just waiting for some concrete news. I mean, you've spoken to Paul today. How's he coping today?
Yeah, the message is loud and clear. We keep going. again, we're based on this theory. I mean, we can't, talking about a life and basing it on a theory, we can't go and tell those girls, well, the theory could be X, Y and Z. We need some evidence, and whatever the news is, then we deal with whatever evidence comes, but at the moment we can't go out. So we're out in force today, raising that awareness. If anybody does see anything, hear anything, jogs the memory of last Friday, please share. But we on the bulletin yesterday, we're asking for factual information. So that influx of calls yesterday, we want the facts.
This is a small Lancashire town in a desperate search, where no one wants to give up looking. Tonight, search teams in the dark and rain responded to a community call-out. Wading into the river close to where Nicola Bulley's phone was found, they pulled out what looked like a green chair. But police are appealing for any new information, calling now for this key witness to come forward, a woman seen here pushing a pram who police believe was in the area where Nicola disappeared on Friday morning. As the investigation continues, Nicola Bulley's friends say it's too soon for condolences, that the police theory that Nicola fell into the river is not one they can as yet accept.
As far as we are aware, there is no evidence that she is in that water. And I mean, the police have been incredible with the resources that they have thrown towards that river. This is not adding up. And it's not adding up on a huge, huge scale, which makes you think, well, then there has to still be hope, because we're missing something. Something is not making sense.
Friends have established this, a community search hub in the village tennis club,
Use the What Street Words app as well,
where people can come, take a map of the local area and try and help.
I've known Nicola for over 20 years. It's a distressing time for the family, and my husband and I, we just felt that we wanted to come and, just come and look.
This is one route along the riverbank here, or?
Yes, yeah.
Lee Ward has never met Nicola Bulley, doesn't know her family, but he, like so many others, has seen her story and felt compelled to come.
I think it's one of them things, you read it on the news and that, and it sort of eats you up inside, thinking what they're going through.
For Nicola Bulley's friends and families, there are still far more questions than answers right now. The police investigation has been extensive. It's covered 15 kilometres of rivers all the way down to the sea. But it's still here, the fields where Nicola was last seen and where her phone and dog were found, that continue to draw people, all with the same question: what happened that morning? We sent footage from the scene to Peter Faulding. He's a forensic search and rescue expert and believes police need to intensify their efforts in the river.
It needs a high-frequency sonar run down the river to say she's not there. I mean, we can walk up and down riverbanks all day long and look at and have people on the ground, but maybe them resources could be focused in other places.
Here, neighbours, friends, family, even strangers are not giving up hope. They will continue their search for a mother who went for a walk and has not come home. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News, Lancashire.
So you can hear Heather saying here that something is not right. It's not adding up. They don't believe the police theory that Nicola had fell into the river. And everyone at home is listening to these interviews and getting concerned that the family and friends think there's something going on, there's something not right. Also in this clip, you can see Peter Faulding, the way the news seeks out experts in areas of whatever is going on in the news at that time. That's a normal thing that they do, is they bring in experts to talk on their news broadcasts. Just like they did here with Peter and all the expertise that he has and his years of work that he has involved in all his search and rescue efforts. So the family and friends seen Peter's interviews on the news, and they decided to contact him to see could he help them out. Now, I don't know whether it was Paul, Nicola's family, or the friends that made the decision to contact Peter. But they made a video and sent it off, and Paul did contact Peter. But the main thing is here, they wanted to get the river over and done with and get the police away from the river. Sorry, I forgot to put this in, that when Grizzly True Crime started on the Nicola Bulley case, and she said a friend sent the leaflet to see could she help with the case, a local had sent her something to say that Nicola was suffering with alcohol abuse. And that was on the 3rd of February. So now moving on to the 5th of February. Grizzly True Crime puts out a plea for the family for Peter Falden to help in the case. So during her live, she finds out that Peter is going to help, and she also announces that the family is watching and some have reached out to her. She said family and friends and everything says Nicola was a very strong swimmer. The water isn't very deep, especially not this time of year. It's not moving very fast, and it moves a little faster beyond the weir. But they're also questioning why they came out with the hypothesis. So we have to keep an open mind. We have to think of other options. Grizzly is showing a map where Nicola was last seen at 9:10 a.m. according to her family friend, who is remaining anonymous. I totally respect that. I protect all my sources. She goes on to say that there was a pair of CCTV cameras at Rowan Water and one of them wasn't working, and she's doing this as family wants an open mind. She said family shared that they spoke to the dive team on Saturday. She goes on to explain all the information that Tilly Ann, the friend, had put out and goes through them in detail. Speaking about Tilly Ann saying that Paul was never a suspect, and the reason was because there was CCTV. But she also went on to say that the sister is pretty much living there. So when speaking about the abandoned house that Paul was supposed to have searched in between the village hall and Ivy Dean alpacas, she deflects from that and goes back to she says take it with a grain of salt, and goes back to talking about the other abandoned house across the way, so deflecting from that. She also said that the family friend said Nicola was closer to Rowan Water when last seen, deflecting from where the police said she was last seen. Like, which one of them is lying here? Is it the police or the family friend who's getting the information from Paul? I'm wondering why they're trying to deflect our attention away from the very upper field over to the Rowan Water area. I wonder what their motive for this is. The family friend also said that Willow would have went in the river after Nicola. Now, if Paul knew anything about the situation and what happened there, he would have also known that everyone would have known that, well, especially Nicola's family, that Willow would have went in after her. She also says that one of Nicola's friends had got a strange Strava request at some stage, and also went on to say that, you know, people could use Strava maps, you know, to find out locations of people. Now, that's the friend got that request, not Nicola. She also goes on about the map again and where Nicola was last seen, and says that she's in contact with a direct friend of the family who updates her on things. She mentions then that someone said in chat about an attempted snatch of a woman in Barrowford, and says that's interesting, as that this family friend that she's talking to said that their wife got a really strange connection request on Strava. So that's who she's talking about the Strava request. The family friend of Paul, his wife. On the 5th of February, Paul allows a video of his youngest daughter to be shared through Sky News to the world. In the clip, the child says, "Them helicopters are looking for mummy." Now, why would you pull out a phone and video the child saying that? And such a private moment at that. Why would you be thinking in your head to video that? Now, I think it says a lot about a person if they're able to use their own child for their own gain. It really says a lot about the person. And to me, it's quite disgusting. I won't be sharing the clip because I find it very inappropriate to use your child like that. Now, also on the 5th of February, Nadia Fell, a friend of Nicola's, shares a post on a psychic, David Traynor. He goes on to say that in the search for Nicola, it led him to an industrial estate. Now, in the comment section of this post that Nadia shared, Melissa Bleakley said, "I think Heather spoke to this man today." Now, you can see here by Nadia and Heather, they have a different opinion of what happened to Nicola as that of Paul, Emma and the male close friend and Tilly-Ann. Looking back over Nadia Fell's posts, I see that she posted on the 2nd of February, Day 7, please can everyone share. It's an absolute devastating situation for Paul and the girls. They need her home. Yes, we know nothing adds up. It's all bizarre. But Nikki is out there. We just need to find her. If there is some scumbag that has taken her, please just let her go. Let Nikki come home. Nikki, we all love you so much. Again, on the 5th of February, Emma White sets up a GoFundMe for £100,000. Now, bear in mind, the police are all the police work, they're doing it for free. And Peter Falden had already told them that he was going to do his services for free. But one of the biggest things here is that if Paul and Emma were so convinced that Nicola had ran off, why would they set up a GoFundMe for 100,000 when they are supposed to believe that Nicola will come back? She issued a lame apology, but before she did that, she reduced it to 50,000 because people were complaining about it. Now, she could have just reduced it to 5,000 or started off at that, but she reduced it to 50. So, she had every intention of having it up a big amount. But remember, we're supposed to believe from what Paul has said and Emma has said that Nicola is alive. She's not dead. Why set up that GoFundMe? How embarrassing would that be if their idea that Nicola would come back and she come back and there's this GoFundMe set up for £100,000? What really leads me to think that this whole idea that Nicola having ran off is a ruse. Anyway, she further reduced it until it went down to 5,000 and then removed it completely. Moving on now to the 6th of February.
Feeling this morning knowing that you've got this new company getting involved with this new equipment?
Yeah, it was great. We saw Peter Folling come on a media bulletin. And
he's the CEO of the company.
He is the CEO of and it was a plea to the media forum was how do we get Peter to St Michael's. So we did do a plea as a family. I think a video went to him asking him please come to St Michael's. Lo and behold, we then got his mobile number. Paul and I gave him a call and his team arrives last night with Peter arriving today.
And just potentially a new way to provide some answers.
Absolutely. Following the theory of the hypothesis of the police that Nicola is in the river, we need some evidence to back that up either way. And I feel Peter and his amazing bit of kit too technical for me, but it's going to come and sweep the riverbeds and give us answers.
And just finally, if I could ask you, the police at the weekend talked about how the treatment of some people who are witnesses by people online using speculation, even in some cases abuse, has been unacceptable. That must have been distressing from your point of view.
To be honest, I think we're that busy and wrapped up in getting that message, bring Nikki home, that the family or friends, we haven't actually had that much time to digest anything. Obviously, we're looking for the good stories, and this Peter folding is what we found. I mean, what I would say, if you can be anything in the world, you can simply be kind, can't you? And the acts of kindness that have come to the family and friends is what's keeping people going. The support network around them remains positive. And at the end of the day, we have got 2 little girls out there who have lost their mummy. So whatever people are saying, whatever speculation, let's just remind our end goal that it is to bring Nikki back and bring mummy home.
Did you hear Emma saying here, we as a family made a video? And me and Paul contacted Peter. Also about the speculation. Most of the speculation came from friends and family, as you'll see throughout this video. The 6th of February, back to Grizzly, True Crime. An anonymous friend, the same anonymous friend of Nicola and Paul, told her that there was a time when one of those life-size teddy bears actually fell into the water there. And there's lots of fishermen also out there on the water. It's a perfect fishing spot. It's a perfect swimming spot as well. It's so calm in the water there. It's not like rapids or something. Anyway, this teddy bear actually floated between where it fell into the water and the weir for a few days, when it didn't just like float over the weir like everyone's saying. You've know someone that fell in there and hit their head and drowned, and then they go over the weir and out to the ocean. It's not quite that fast moving. So even, I love this bit of information. It really helps to understand everything as well, especially from locals and especially from family and friends. So I appreciate that. She goes over it again about the CCTV up at Rowan Water, how the family friend had said it to her about the one camera not working. But again, getting you to look over there at Rowan Water. She says that, I wonder if abduction is possible if someone would have known about the camera not working. Now, I'd say that was her herself just wondering that, because as she does true crime, so obviously she's going to learn some things from the family, but she's also going to have her own opinions about the case. So she gets out her map and says that this was sent to her by the family friend, that this is the caravan park, and shows where there's unlocked gates near the caravan park. She shows how you can drive down allotment lane and go through those gates and end up very close to where the bench is. So she's back talking about the camera that's not working. And then she speaks about the man with the white fluffy dog. She thinks he's the last one that saw Nicola around 9:10. And the only thing that he said that he noticed was Willow was barking a bit. But she says, then Willow is not generally a dog that barks. She's very obedient from what she had heard from family and friends. Video they put out of Nicola in the snow, you can hear Willow barking. But also we learned from Claire Chesham that Willow was barking there that morning that Nicola disappeared. So she says the fact that Willow was barking a little bit there, to her it's a red flag. And this area for her is a huge area of concern. It's a vulnerable area, especially if someone knows that camera isn't working. So she mentions about the family friend, the male friend that was with Paul the Saturday morning, the day after the disappearance, that he said that Willow did react in the upper field near the corner towards Rowan Water, and that she reacted there. But she also said that the family did an experiment to see can she get through, the style area and around there, and she could. So she's showing the press conference with Sally Riley, and then she talks about them not sealing off the area at that time, and that all the public were allowed to come and go the entire night as well as on Friday, and people were allowed to come and go as they please the next morning. And Nicola's family were out there already at 8 in the morning and ready to search, but the police didn't arrive till 10:30 a.m. that morning. So what she understands that they really just didn't tape off the area. So moving on now to the 7th of February.
It's been 10 days now since Nicola went missing. I have 2 little girls who miss their mummy desperately, and we need her back. It's been such a tough time for the girls especially, but also for me, all of Nicky's family and friends, as well as the wider community. I want to thank them for their love and support. We're also really grateful to Peter and his team from SGI for coming up and helping support the work of Lancashire Police as they continue their investigation. I can't put those girls to bed again tonight with no answers.
So Paul releases this statement. He shows no emotions. But when he's speaking about the girls, putting the girls to bed, without having Nicola there, you'd expect to hear some emotions reading out that part. He doesn't seem to be freaking out or worried for Nicola. He's more on thanking people for their help and all that. And the police are basically telling him that Nicola's dead, but he's not freaking out over it. He's just calm and not worried. It's like he's resigned himself already to the fact that Nicola's dead, and has done a while ago, and he's over it, and he's just no emotions. On the 7th of February, Grizzly True Crime goes over the police conference with Sally Riley. So at first she says she has some notes there that she had taken from speaking to some of Nicola's friends and had got answers to questions just to clear things up. She said there was a rumour going around saying that the CCTV camera that they were mentioning that wasn't working was tampered with, and she said no one ever said that. She said one of the cameras that was pointing at the field, that wasn't working, but they don't know if that was tampered with. They just know that it wasn't working. She points out that it is not Emma in the CCTV, as Nicola's family and friends have said that it was Nicola that was in the CCTV. As she says that there was rumours going around that it was Emma in the CCTV and not Nicola. She questions the police saying about the phone on the bench at 9:20. She says, but they don't know that it was Nicola that put the phone on the bench, even though they have the telephony, but they've no CCTV of Nicola putting the phone on the bench. And she said if she was going to go with the hypothesis of abduction theory, and then my speculation would be there could be more than one person, then somebody would be walking to put that phone there on the bench and to leave Willow there. And as I say, these would be questions that she'd be wondering in her own head, outside of what she's been told from Paul's friends. She questions again about the school being called before Paul, and also questions about the man with the white fluffy dog and the 3 people in the field, and wonders what the description of these people are and that, you know. So she said that this was sent to her by a family friend, that this is the caravan park and there's unlocked gates here around the caravan park. And then she goes on to say about that you can drive right up to the river's edge. And the police kept saying that no, she fell into the water. And the police said that she didn't leave by allotment lane. But, for instance, if a van that drives right up here, you know, to the river's edge, or if someone was even camping there or something, whatever, I don't know. If someone drives right down there and someone says, come help me quickly, can you just quickly come here? You know what I mean? And maybe Nicola's like, okay, let me just... But normally one would take their phone, so it's still a phone on the bench is suspicious to me. But either way, if they left in a vehicle, how are you going to see that? Or say that Nicola didn't leave in a vehicle on allotment lane. Again, points out about the dog being tied up and saying about the dog was going between the bench and the stile, not going between the bench and the kissing gate. Said the family done a test the next day and Willow could get through those areas. Again mentions that Willow reacted up near Rowan Water. She mentions this. So on this allotment lane is where the lady with a pram was. And they said it could be critical information, which makes me think, well, then you are interested in this allotment lane either way, because you can drive this way to the Wireside Caravan Park. And you guys who have said in other streams, who camped there on the Thursday night that week and the Friday, who left on the Friday, while they're still there, or like has everything been checked out there? It would be just interesting to know, of course, just because of this allotment lane. But either way, any stranger could drive in here and drive straight to, you know, the river. And then mentions again that law enforcement, the police, had put her closer to the top of the upper field, where the family puts her closer to Rowan Water. And mentions that on the Garstang Road to the entrance of Rowan Water, there's no CCTV. And that's the biggest area of concern for her. She mentions that she hopes they are checking all of Rowan Water too. These are all wooden cabins and some are unoccupied. As I say, people mustn't go breaking in there. Agree on that, but I can understand people's curiosity, of course, and concern in searching this area too. There's also water here to search, and I do hope that they are searching that as well. Mentions that when Nicola go into the field, she wouldn't leave the phone and harness there. She'd bring the harness around with her. She mentions again the person who found the phone and Willow, and that they tied her up. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about what all is really going on there. But to me, there's many possibilities to explore besides her falling into the water, you know. And if someone falls into the water right there, I don't know what time in that the phone is at the bench at 9:20. So at 9:21, 22, someone falls in there and you're trying to tell me that they're going to sink to the bottom. And also you're asking how deep the river is, but we've gone over that So she explains the river levels. And then she says, look, if that's a way to distract someone that are actually investigating behind the scenes, fine. But it's very hard to be just like, oh yeah, she just fell into the water. And as I say, if that's what happened, we'll accept it if they find her. And that's what happened. What a strange case. Either way, it makes you still wonder, did someone push her into the water? What happened in those circumstances? There's no evidence, as her own sister said, there's no evidence of her falling into the water. And she's a strong swimmer. Yes, the water is cold, but it isn't fast moving. Someone mentions then in the comments about Paul's alibi. And Grizzly goes on to say that he's on CCTV footage at the house the entire morning, and the school called him, and then he rushed to the scene. And after the school had called him, he called the police immediately. So that other stuff we are hearing is just pure rumour. It's Rowan Washer again, and says, if you are from the area, number one, stay safe. But if you want to go there and be boots on the ground, man, if we could please have somebody walking down there, like down into the estate of Rowan Water. I think it's a gated community though, from what I can see. When we have been there on the road, it looks like it seems to be. And then you wonder why people turned up at them places. I'm not sure how you exactly get in here, but you can drive all the way down here. And to me, this is a concern that Nicola was seen between here around 9:10. That's what the family had told her. Then she goes on to say that a man that was on the run of a person that commits assault was on the run. And could you imagine if he was staying there at the camping site? Then mention again about Nicola's family being out there at 8 the next morning after she disappeared, and the police didn't arrive till 10:30 that morning. And that the area, at least, because that bench is really the last place where a domestic person, the missing person's phone was known to be placed, wasn't cordoned off or taped off. But she didn't mention about the upper field or Rowan Water being taped off. Yet she's going on so much about Rowan Water. But the family didn't mention about up there being taped off. Especially when that was the last known sighting of Nicola. Then someone said in the comment that the friends said there was a red van. And Grizzly said, that's interesting, I haven't heard of that. Now, whether she meant about the family had never mentioned it to her, as the friends never mentioned about the red van, anything about that, or the fishermen. I don't think they said anything about that at all. They weren't looking in that direction at all. So someone mentions in the chat again about the partner being sus. And Grizzly says, go and check out the behaviour panel and Peter Hyatt's videos if you still think, oh my word, the hubby, or it's actually partner, is sus, and go and check it out. I hope it clears your mind. To me, initially, I was like a little concerned he didn't say her name or anything like that. But now I understand, especially I'm understanding more about everything. I'm just like, okay, he's definitely like focused and he's shell shocked and he's focused and he's like, okay, he's got to look after his two girls and he was on CCTV at the home the entire morning. And as soon as he got the call from the person in the school, he immediately called the police. She mentions again just before the live finishes that Nicola was last seen up in that area of Rowanwater, that the family had told her, and that they should check that area out and check the water and that. Moving on now to the 8th of February. She starts off by saying, okay, so we will go into this timeline about Willow being tied up. Believe me, we will. It's been a few days of me brainstorming with friends of the family who are in direct contact with the family, and like I see today, there has been some information released so that we could talk about it a little bit. I can't share everything. There's a lot of things that are off record, but some things are just like so mind-boggling. She said it took the police nearly 2 weeks to set up an email address. Willow is very familiar with the area where Nicola disappeared, and she's a very obedient dog. But she said there has been reports that a dog walker in the area has said, if your dog is off the lead, and if I find you again with your dog off the lead, I'll shoot your dog. There's someone threatening that kind of stuff out there in this area. Now, I'm not going to be too specific. I'm just saying that that's interesting to note. As well, it could be just a grumpy person, but still, this just makes you think a little. But we now know who this person is that she's referring to. All of us know now because we've been pointed that direction. Water, where the family believe Nicola was last, going against what the police had said, where they reckon Nicola was last. Also about Willow reacting it up at Rowanwater area. And the elderly man and his wife, the wife saying, oh yeah, my hubby says there were about 3 people in the field that day. And that the family said that Willow isn't really a barker, so what she was barking at, nobody knows. To Paul, who's in communication with him daily, and I'm so grateful for the information they're able to share with me so that we can brainstorm together and try figure out what the hell is happening here, and are there any red flags to consider. Now, if the phone is placed there at 9:20, what happened next? What is the next thing? Well, the next thing is that at 9:33 a.m, that's very specific, a witness found Willow running between the gate and the bench. That's what they say, but they don't specify which gate. But now the family has said it's the kissing gate and the stile, the other gate. And I'm not going to name this person, but I'm going to tell you some stuff about this person. This person is a regular dog walker, okay, and it's a lady, and she walks her dog but hates everyone else's dogs, and is pedantic about people having their dogs on a leash, even in a dog park. But this person finds Willow while she's going for her walk, and she enters from the allotment lane. And she sees there's a phone, and there's a dog running around, not on a leash, and the harness is on the ground but a few feet away from the bench. The friend says that it could be easy to maybe miss the harness, but what this person does next is odd to me. They decide there's a phone, there's a dog, so they tie the dog up with rope. You guys, a rope. Don't ask me why they're carrying a rope around. I don't know why and what's going on here. She's known as Grumpy. She's walking a dog. She's going out there. She finds the phone and the dog and decides, oh, this bloody dog is not on its leash, and then ties the dog, I guess, to the bench with a rope, and then decides, nope, I've got an appointment now, and marches off to whatever appointment that is, and still not clear what appointment that is, okay, and marches off to the appointment. Now you can see where all this information is coming from and why people were in those areas checking it out, like in the caravan park and Rowan Water. She goes on again then about how long it takes them to contact the school. The school till 10:50. She then says that Paul was like, sorry, what? You found Willow and a phone? Like, sorry, what? And there's no sign of Nicola? Yeah, okay. And he calls the police. Now, we know now that he didn't contact the police straight away. He contacted Anne-Marie and told Anne-Marie that Nicola was struggling. But he didn't let Grizzly True Crime know this. She mentions the area of where the caravan park is as close as the wind blows and finds it absolutely red flaggy and bizarre. Goes on again about the mention of the elderly man with the white fluffy dog, and that there was about 3 people in the field. Now, who is that? Is it Nicola and 2 fishermen? Because there's a rumour going around that there's 2 fishermen. Again mentions the harness, that the harness is taken off at the gate and it's put back on at the gate when they're ready to leave. She now mentions the ball, that they very rarely take the ball out for walks with Willow now because she's very, very protective over the ball and haven't done for a while. And someone was actually saying that what if someone who knew Nicola's routine and with Willow and everything and brought a ball along and was like, look, and threw the ball for Willow to then run and distracted her. But the family friends have said that Willow was very obedient. So if someone had done that, Nicola would call her and she'd normally come. She now goes on about the caravan park lady again. Grumpy might be just grumpy, but what's interesting to me is how defensive Grumpy and family are being right now. Very defensive in any post made online by any family and friends. It's been dealt with quite aggressively, which I'm like, that's quite interesting, you know. Why not? Why aren't you helping? Why aren't you concerned about where Nicola is, you know? What I mean, normally if you're right there in the proximity of where someone went missing, like, damn, I'd be so worried right away. Maybe it's just a grumpy lady. She then says, I'm not pointing any fingers, but if you start digging into Grumpy, there is a lot to look into. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying any names, but please look into the 9:33 to 10:50. She then goes on about Grumpy, who tied the dog up with a rope. She said she believed her son that set up the CCTV cameras at their property. And she wonders then if they also set up the CCTV on the other side, meaning Rowan Water, would have knowledge of the one camera that's not working. I wonder if the son knows a lot about CCTV footage. Oh man, I'm walking on eggshells over here. So quickly before I go, and she moves on to something else. She goes on to say that Paul and Nikki had a previous address, which was a semi-detached cottage. And that is that address is on their business details, because people have been digging into that. Also on the 8th of February, Heather Gibbons puts up a post on Facebook. Let's talk about this abandoned house. I'm a friend of Nikki's who has been involved every single day in this search. I want absolutely not more than to get her back home to her family. I can't actually express in words how desperately I want to know she is safe and to get her home to her girls and Paul. Since day one, when speaking with the press media, I have shared how incredibly thankful we are as friends and family for people who have turned out to help us in the search for Nikki. It's meant that absolute world, and it continues to do so. But this abandoned house, here are some facts that need to be known. It's not abandoned. It's owned by a lovely family who have lived in this village for generations and would do anything they can do to help in the search for Nikki. It has been searched inside and outside from top to bottom by police. I have clarified this with the family themselves and also with the police. They have never refused entry to the police or told them they need a warrant to search. It's not strange that they were around when the police rescue teams turned up. The police had knocked on their door and asked them to be around. Tonight, multiple police units are out in St. Michael's dealing with people trespassing, not only on this family land, but also on others. We are at a point where people are coming to help look for Nikki in this way is actually doing the complete opposite. You're taking police time and resources away from the investigation. You're letting speculation take away from the actual facts. We are at a point where this type of help is making people who live in St. Michael's feel unsafe. Please don't let this continue to happen. #bring Nikki home. Now, remember, this is after family and friends are letting people know that there's something wrong. There's something not right. They don't believe the police theory. And they're telling us that there's something not right. And people are getting concerned and want stuff to happen and want to find this woman. And here you have it with family, friends sharing stuff with Grizzly True Crime and pointing in the direction of Rowan Water and pointing in the direction of the caravan park. And then you wonder why people are going to this area to try help find Nicola. It's not a fact that they're just turning up there randomly. It's because all of this has been pointed out to them from family and friends. Also on the 8th of February, Nicola's friend Nadia Fell puts up a post on Facebook. I'm fed up with people thinking they are helping, but all they are doing is causing damn trouble. Too many sticky beaks. Seriously, piss off. Stop trying to get fame out of this damn horrific situation. Stop trying to get TikTok famous. Go away. And loads of angry faces. #bring Nikki home. Again, blaming other people when most of the information is coming from family and friends. And it's like a call out for people to come and help. But this one seems like she has anger issues. So moving on now to the 9th of February. And we're back to Grizzly True Crime. She's back talking about the people ringing the school before they rang Paul. So she said they should have called the partner, but the school phones poor Paul. And poor Paul is like, I'm sorry, what? And Willow is there and the phone is there and he knew that Nicola had this meeting. And she takes this walk, and for everyone asking why was he not concerned at that point? Because normally she may have gotten home around 10ish or so, but sometimes she would run errands after the walk. Like go to the shops, and the shops are a little bit further out. It's like a bit of a drive to get to the grocery store where she went and then get back. So 11ish getting home is not problematic. He wasn't concerned at that point because it's like, okay, maybe she just went to the shops as she went many times. Now we know that he tells different stories. He tells it in the upcoming interview. So this is a red flag. To say then that he wasn't concerned at that point because it's like, okay, maybe she just went to the shop as she did many times before. But the thing is, at 10:50 a.m., Paul is like, I'm sorry, what? And he immediately calls the police because he knows that's not right. And then he rushes to the scene. So we know he tells different stories. He was telling people different stories. In one, he's not concerned. She might have went to the shops. He wasn't concerned till he got the phone call at 10 to 11. But in his interview, he was concerned at 10:15, around that time. Also, telling people that he contacted the police immediately, which he didn't. He contacted Anne-Marie first to tell her that Nicola was struggling. And he can't say that he didn't tell Grizzly this because he wanted to keep it private. He actually told Anne-Marie. So he wanted that information to get out there. She keeps going on then about the man with the white fluffy dog seen with 2 other people, and about the area where Nicola was last seen being up closer to Rowan Water. But surely by now, Claire Chesham would have spoke with the family and told them that she seen Nicola down further where the police had said that she was last seen. So if Claire had have told them, why would they still be pointing up towards the direction of Rowan Water? Now moving on to Friday the 10th of February. It has now been 2 weeks since Nicola had disappeared.
2 weeks on and still we have no evidence, information of this, the key gate here behind us and this part of the road, Garstang Road in St Michael's on Wyre. So we're out in force again today. The community is united once again and it's a real last push just to jog people's memory to, oh yeah, I was passing that bridge, I've got dash cam footage, so we can try and build a picture of this area to help the police in their investigation.
You did this last Friday, didn't you? You must have been hoping that you wouldn't be back this Friday.
Absolutely, yeah, there was that hope there, and last Friday it ignited. The surge of calls into 101 was excessive. They had to have an extra team pulled onto the resources, so 101 just to answer the calls. So then that we had that hope that, something's got to come of this information. Then we had the roller coaster, we had Peter and his guys down this week, which was amazing. We can't thank them enough for coming all that way, that simple act of kindness, which was great in some respects. So it cemented the work that the police have done, and we've now narrowed down that from the bench to the weir we can categorically say that Nicola is not in there. So that again gave us great hope. We just need to bring Nikki home whatever way it is, so that's why it's so important that we try and get some evidence of this area today that can then guide us into whichever direction it takes us.
So you can see here by Emma that they're concentrating on that entrance, the river path, that Nicola had went out that area. They don't seem to have any concerns, and you'll see that by all the friends and the family. They don't seem to have any concerns of the fishermen and the red van having anything to do with Nicola's disappearance. Emma and Paul, they're more concentrating on the fact that Nicola had left and her mental health had something to do with it, and that perhaps she was thinking about unaliving herself. But the only persons that seemed concerned about Nicola being abducted, well, at the start was her dad and her mum. Now, a couple of friends that kind of weren't in the close circle around Paul did think about abduction, but they weren't being led by Paul in the area of the red van and the fisherman. And Emma seems to be the lead person on the locals and friends and family on the actual search for Nicola. Like where to search and where to stand and where to put the banners. Now, in this next interview with Emma, CD noticed this the same as myself, but for me, it sounds like Paul has Emma convinced that Nicola has ran off. And when speaking about the children and tucking the children into bed, it's something every mother should be doing. Now that seems a bit, I don't know, it just seems a bit smart about Nicola. Now I could be wrong, but that's the feeling I got. And then she says that Nicola is probably not even in St. Michael's anymore. Like, it seems strange to me. It seems to me like Paul has Emma convinced that Nicola has ran off.
What's keeping us strong is obviously Nikki and Paul's children and my own children. We have to be resilient for them. Obviously they're aware Mummy's missing, but if we all crumble and we're giving no hope to them, aren't we? And we still have that hope that Nikki's out there because we have no news.
This is such a small community, a small village school where Nikki and Paul's children attended. Yeah. They were dropped off that morning. You still have contact with them. How are they coping?
Yeah, when they get home from school, they're asking Daddy the same question, any news? And Daddy sadly has to say no. And Paul said he can just see them sort of deflate. But kids are resilient. They've got hope. They see Mummy's picture everywhere. They say everyone's out looking for the mummy. And we just want to bring them that news that we found Mummy and Mummy's coming home tonight to put you to bed and give you those good night cuddles, which every mummy should be doing.
And just behind us you can see some of the members of the community with these posters, a very clear picture of Nicola Bulley's face, the day she went missing, and that number asking people to call 101.
101, yeah, just for any information, and it is just driving that awareness that somebody might see her. She might not even be in St. Michael's anymore, but wherever she is, just bring Nikki home.
Like, wherever she is, just bring Nicola home. It really seems like he has her convinced that she had ran off. But remember, he's also pointing in the direction that she's struggling with her mental health. So he's telling some people that.
We have sadness, it's torture, it's despair, it's frustration. So today, it's 2 weeks since Nikki has gone missing, so the police are crying out for any information on this gate and this part of the road, which is Garstang Road and St. Michael's on Wire. As I said, today I'm almost feeling a little bit numb today, 2 weeks on, but we still have that hope that today will bring something and we can bring those girls home to Paul and bring Nikki home. He can't crumble as well when Mummy's missing. Paul's got to remain very strong for them, but he's taking each day as it comes. Obviously we're keeping normality, the children are at school, so Paul has that downtime to sadly think and reflect on what's going on.
Right, okay. Are you happy with the police investigation, the way it's going?
Not to comment on the efforts that the police and like Peter are doing. I mean, it was obviously Peter cemented the work that the police have done and confirmed that she's not in the river from the bench to the weir. Just need a different line of inquiry to give them something that they can go on and bring Nikki home.
Now, I wouldn't class Emma as being numb here. She looks actually hyper, kind of excitedly here. Perhaps it's because they're getting closer to moving away from the river area. Now, I find it strange that the children are still in school, that they're not kept away from the school do you know, like if any information comes out, if Nicola's found, or if, you know, if classmates say anything that they have heard on the news, or, you know, things like that, you'd think they'd be more protecting the children. But Emma says here, like, they're keeping some normality. And so Paul can have a bit of, you know, downtime and that to sadly reflect, she says. But that's just him getting a bit of time to himself. Like, why isn't he out pulling the place down, looking for his partner? Absolutely distraught and angry with what's going on, or thinking that maybe someone has taken her. Also saying about bringing the children home to Paul. Like, she realises she made a mistake there, and kind of there was a bit of a grin about it. Also saying about Peter Falden, cementing the work that the police had done already. But I think Peter is just another person that they have used along the way. Now, in this next video clip, you'll hear from a local saying he doesn't believe that Nicola was in the river. But you'll also hear from Helen O'Neill. Now, Helen O'Neill was the woman that heard the scream. She's the woman that lives in the estate adjacent to Allotment Lane.
There is something out there. There is someone that's got this footage, or knows something. Somebody's got to know something. She can't be in the river.
If you were in and around the area of St Michael's on Wyre, did you see anything? Do you have any dash cam, any footage of just driving through the centre of the village? Please get in touch with the police. You may think it's not important, but let the police decide that.
Now back to Grizzly True Crime, also on the 10th of February. Grizzly True Crime speaks about the upcoming interview that Paul was going to be doing with Channel 5 and Dan Walker. There was a preview given beforehand, so she does some talking about that. So she says, let's make sure we are kind to everyone, to Nicola's family and friends, and also to people that you think are a little bit of a red flag. All that would be plausible scenario to explore. It's not to invite bullying or bashing or harassment or trespassing of anyone. That should go without saying. But I do see a little bit of an uptick in the chat here of people bashing Grumpy and her family and everything. That is not at all the point of even looking at that. My concern is, well, what do they know? Do they know more? Can they offer more information? Sometimes people might, lots of people don't watch true crime. They don't follow cases, even if they live right there, and they might not know the gravity of the situation. You see, she's having to backtrack here now what she has said about Grumpy and the family, because she's riled up people that thinking there's something going on with these caravan park people.
But she can't help it because that's the information she's receiving from the family and friends. She's now going on about how people had pointed out that the similarities between what Paul had said and Emma had said and things like that. So she then points out that another friend had said something similar. So they're all saying similar things, but that's not the case. That's not what people were pointing out. Now she talks again about the CCTV not working. And she said, following some pressure from the public, police confirmed that a camera located at the top field and pointing in the direction of the bench was not working. I have seen this camera and it looks relatively new. It is a single unit consisting of 2 cameras on a tall pole. One camera points down to the gate and is in working order, and the other camera points over the fence into the top field. But it is not working. This camera would have likely seen exactly what happened. She then goes on and says that people want to point fingers at Paul and saying that he has 4 companies registered to his name. And they're digging all that stuff out and saying that talking about life insurance and that. And even if we're looking at it, and if this is all true here, which it is, it's fact, it's like, okay, these companies were dissolved. Right, 2 out of the 4. Actually, it was 3 out of the 4. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Does it have to mean anything? Oh my word, then he did something. It doesn't have to mean that. That's where the dots don't have to be connected. It's interesting too. Look at it for a moment and see what is going on there. Could there be a motive? Nothing is explained in this case, right? So think of it like this. The 9th of August 2022, a company was launched. I didn't put the company names on yet because I'm not going to put everything on blast. So say the 9th of August, here is a company launched and that's still active. And then on the 28th of March 2018, we're going backwards in time. We're going back in time. He started a company, which is going to be dissolved. The accounts are overdue, and there's a compulsory strike-off that is dated the 7th of February. That's when it's supposed to happen. Okay? Now we're on the 10th of February, so maybe it's already happened. But yes, so there's that if you want to be like, oh my word, naughty, he didn't pay the accounts, they're in major debt, and friends say they're not. She goes on then to say that this is confirmation bias and it just annoys her and it's a pet peeve. Yet she's in the true crime world and things like this does lead to, it shows how people are caught doing stuff. She then goes on more about the other businesses and says that the one that everyone is looking at is a compulsory strike off. One, because the only one where Nicola has a 50-50 partnership with Paul in this company. And why we have to dig out these receipts, I don't like it. I don't like how it feels, but I just want to address it because I see a lot of people in the comments trying to discredit my research because I'm not addressing this. So here's me addressing this. What would you like to say about this? Do you want me to do a little life insurance dance? We don't even know what happened to this woman yet. Can we please just focus on finding her? How about that? We do that, okay? So that is the history of that. She then went on to say that a man who had went out to help with the searching and had went with his 3 colleagues had come across Grumpy Lady, and that Grumpy Lady had shouted that was there any strong men there, and he had went over and she had asked him to take a nail out of a fence, and so he did. He helped her out, and that he found her very strange. And she says that, disclaimer, if this grumpy lady is just a Park Karen, as people are calling on her, if this is Park Karen and she's just grumpy and she's a little strange, that's fine. No one's saying she did anything. We just want to know what happened between 9:33 and 10:50 a.m. That's it. The man then went on to say it probably took about 2 minutes long, but as soon as he walked back towards the river where his colleagues were waiting, he said to them, "She's so weird. Not once did she make eye contact with me. Not once ever looked me in the face. I've reported it to police today, though through their website, but I could only type 500 characters, so it'll probably get overlooked. I'm telling you because I didn't like her demeanour and a whole vibe. Where we live around here, it's very common to say hello to strangers passing by and look them in the eye, especially if someone's helping you." She then went on to say that there was a couple of comments saying that she was probably trying to get the man's DNA on the hammer. And she said that it was her first thought too. She then said, "So I don't know what it means. I think it means nothing at this point, but either way, it's very interesting." She then went on to talk about the fishermen and went into detail about the fishermen. But she said you should take that with a grain of salt, a grisly low sodium diet. And then mentioned the red van and said that it's probably just media hype. The ball was mentioned in the comments again, asking what if someone had brought a ball along, if they had a plan and threw the ball over here. And she says that the friends and family went out there and they actually found 3 balls there the next morning, as it's a dog park.